Hi everyone. So my name is Anna. I'm going to be your instructor for Calculus 1 this summer quarter. And I just wanted to make a video to introduce myself as well as to introduce you to basically how the class is going to work this quarter. So I'm going to show you the Canvas for our class, show you how, to access the homework assignments, all that kind of stuff, just tell you how things are basically going to work in this class. So if you've taken a class with me before, and especially an online class with me before, like last quarter, you'll see that things are going to be very similar. However, there will be a few differences and things that are kind of specific to summer quarter. So please do still watch this video, even if you took a class with me last quarter. Yeah. So we'll get into class stuff in a second. I just want to take a second to actually introduce myself. So my name, like I said, is Anna. You can just call me Anna. You don't need to worry about calling me professor or anything like that. So I've been working at North Seattle College for just over 2 years now. And Math&151 is actually one of my favorite classes to teach. I think it's probably the class that I've taught the most number of times. So I really enjoy it. I think it's a fun class. Just to tell a little bit more about myself, I guess in my free time, I really like to do things outdoors. Like I love rock climbing and hiking and running. And yeah, just enjoying the beautiful mountains that we have around us here in Seattle. Okay, so the way I'm going to do this, I'm going to start by showing you the Canvas for our class. I'm going to kind of use that as a jumping off point to show you a few different things, and then we'll come back to the syllabus to also talk about some stuff specifically that is mentioned on the syllabus. So this is what the Canvas for our class looks like. It will look a little different to you because right now I'm as an instructor, I get a different view, and so I had to do something called student view, so you won't see this purple border, but other than that, it will look very similar. So basically a lot of the kind of essential information you need to know for the class is going to be on this page here. So I like to put things that people tend to ask me about. So there's a link to the syllabus. Tells you when my office hours are, it says what the textbook is, the exam dates. So you don't need to email me and ask what the exam dates are. They're right here on the home page. And then also some links. And so I'll come back and talk about some of these links in a little bit. But yeah, so before I get into, actually, I'll do this stuff first, and then I'll show you kind of where you can access everything. So the office hours for this class, so just so you know, in general, during the summer, instructors actually aren't required to have regular office hours. So just kind of a heads up, if you have any other instructors that don't have regular office hours, that's why we're not really required to. But I'm going to be having office hours on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I'm going to be doing it a little bit differently this quarter. So instead of using Canvas conferences, I'm going to use Zoom, basically just because I found that there were some limitations to Canvas conferences that I think Zoom will kind of give us a few more features that will make office hours more useful. So they're going to be from 12 to 12:50 p.m. on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And then you'll get an email invitation, or I'll send it through Canvas messaging. So that will give you a link to access the office hours. And it's pretty straightforward. I think probably most of you have used Zoom at this point just because so many teachers were using it last quarter. But yeah, heads up on that. So I guess maybe while I'm on that topic, let me just quickly mention that I will be sending out a lot of information through the messaging system on Canvas. So please make sure that you have, on your Canvas account, that the email address associated with it actually is an email that you check, because I'm going to be using that like multiple times a week. So you really want to make sure that you are either logging into Canvas frequently and checking your messages there, or I think it's even better if you have it set up to forward those emails or those messages to your email address. And I think it does that automatically. You just want to make sure that the email that's associated with your Canvas account is one that you actually check regularly. So the textbook for this class is this thing. So Calculus Early Transcendentals, 8th edition by James Stewart. So I want to emphasize that this is optional. Every quarter I get some comment from someone saying, we never used the book, why did I buy the book? And I really try to always emphasize it's optional. I don't want you to go out and buy a $200 new edition of this book, because I'm not going to be assigning homework out of it. I'm not going to be assigning readings out of it. I do recommend having a copy in some form, whether it's an older edition or a used copy or an ebook or a PDF that you find on the internet. I think it's really good to just have kind of a backup resource so that if there's something that you don't understand after watching the videos for this class, so that you have somewhere else to go look at stuff. And I'll be telling you, as we go through the class, I'll always be telling you like what section and chapter we are in the book. But yeah, so not mandatory that you buy that book. And like I said, I would just recommend if you think you want to have a copy, just try to find whatever feels affordable to you. So exam dates, so there's going to be 2 midterm exams. With the summer quarter, you'll see the midterms come up pretty quickly, but I decided to still do 2 basically because I just think it makes it a little bit more manageable. If you only have 1 midterm, that's a lot of material to kind of cram onto 1 test. So the exam dates are written here. So the way that the exams will work is that I will post the exam at 9 a.m. Pacific time, and you'll basically have all day. You'll have until 11:59 Pacific time to complete and submit the exam. And I'll talk a little bit more about how like submitting those assignments is going to work. So final exam also is listed here. That is on August 20th. So that's like the last day of the quarter basically. So for these exams, I give you all day, but I just want to be clear that these exams are not really designed to be like an all-day event. For the most part, the exams I give are actually really, really similar to what I would give in an in-person class. So like a 50-minute in-person class. The final will be a little longer. It'll be designed to be like a 2-hour test. So yeah, so I would think, you're welcome to take as much time as you want. And I think it's nice that, you have a little bit more time, but just kind of keep in mind when you're working on these that my intention is not for you to spend all day on them. They truly, really are very similar to what I would give in class, and they're really meant to only take about an hour to work on, and then maybe like 2 hours for the final. Also, if you have any kind of scheduling issues, so like if you're on a different time zone or you have a work schedule that makes it really hard for you to do the tests on these days, if you let me know ahead of time, I can be flexible. I can set up, especially I'm flexible with letting you take the test early. So if there's some reason that you can't take the test on these days, let me know as soon as you can, and I can then adjust the schedule for you for those tests. Okay, so I want to show you how you're going to kind of access all of the important stuff for this class. So one thing I just want to point out is that I know a lot of students, and actually I'm not sure where it's cutting off this window, so I'm not sure if you can see this, but on the right-hand side, there's this like to-do list. And I've noticed that a lot of students really like to click on things from there. I can't tell you where to click on things, but what I would say is that the way that I've designed the class is for you to access everything through the modules section. And I think if you go to the module section, you'll kind of get to see the context a little better of like, oh, okay, this goes with that. This homework is based on this, rather than just going here and just clicking on things kind of individually. I think you won't get as much context. So I recommend going to the modules section, and that's where you'll really see how I intend for you to view the class. Okay, so how is this class going to work? Basically, one thing I want to say up front is that there are no live classes. So this is not a class where we're going to like meet every day on Zoom live all together. There's a number of reasons I do that, but for the most part, I've gotten positive feedback last quarter about doing YouTube videos that you can watch on your own time. Just because I think for me, I can make them higher quality if it's not live. And then it gives you a little bit more flexibility for you to watch them when you want to watch them, and you can pause them, rewind them, whatever you need to do. So the way that I'm going to be setting these the videos up is going to be a little bit different from last quarter. So basically, summer quarter. So if you've never taken a class summer quarter at North before, you should know that it is a faster paced quarter. It's kind of intense. So if you take an in-person class in the summer at North, you're meeting 4 days a week for an hour and a half a day. So very long classes. So I'm not going to set it up like that. I think it would not be very useful for you if I made like 4 hour-and-a-half long videos. That's just too long. So what I'm going to do instead is, rather than saying, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or whatever days, I'm just going to make videos. So there's going to be typically, I'd say probably 5 or 6 videos a week, and you're free to break them up however you want. My goal for the videos is to keep them under about 45 minutes because I don't want you to, get super bored watching the videos. So they'll hopefully be, like 30 to 45 minutes for the most part. And so you'll find the videos here. They'll just, if you click this link, it brings you to YouTube. You can feel free to also subscribe to me on YouTube, and then that way you'll get a notification when I post a new video. But again, if the way you're watching the videos is just by every time you see a new video post on YouTube, you go there, that's fine. But I do want you to kind of notice what is also linked along with a video. So I'm gonna also include lecture notes for every video. That's basically just a PDF of everything that I was writing on, during the video. And then this is really, really important. I make a worksheet that goes with every video. And I really consider this to be like part of the learning experience. So if you were taking an in-person class with me this quarter, especially summer quarter, the way the classes would typically work is I'd probably lecture each day for maybe like 45 minutes. And then the remainder of class would be time for you to work on activities to practice what we're learning. And so I really try to emulate that with my online classes by, for each day, having a video and then having a worksheet that's really meant to complement the video. So, if you're trying to kind of do the bare minimum and just watch the videos, I can't stop you from doing that. But I would really, really recommend if your goal is to learn this stuff, you should be doing the worksheets as well. And the worksheets include solutions along with them. I feel like there was something else that I wanted to say that I thought of during that, but I'm forgetting what it is now. Oh, I'm not collecting worksheets. So it's really up to you. It's kind of, honor system, do them for your own good, but I'm not going to be collecting them. So here right now, there's only 2 videos listed, but by the end of the week, there will be like 5 or 6. Oh, and another important thing. So if you click on the, where it says week 1 summary, this will tell you the videos that I'm planning to make. And this is subject to change. If I realize that, oh, maybe I need to actually split this topic into 2 videos, something might change in this list. But basically I tell you which section in the book is being covered in each video. And then this is really, really important. I also tell you which homework problems you can do after watching the video. So I'll show you how to access the homework in a second, but basically, I found that a lot of students, I can see basically who has started and who hasn't started the homework at any point. If I just click on the homework, it shows me, the progress of every student so far. And I know a lot of people like to save it till the last minute. Again, you can do things how you want, but just know that I've really designed this class with the idea that you do the homework as a means of practicing what you're learning. I don't like to think of homework as like a penalty. I'm not like, oh, I need to, push the students hard by giving them all this hard homework. I really think of the homework as a way for you to practice, because it's one thing to watch a video. It's another thing to be able to then replicate what you learned in the video yourself. And so I really, really recommend that each time you watch a video, do the worksheet first. That's kind of your like low stakes way of practicing. And then after you've done the worksheet, do the homework for that day. And if you do it that way, then you only have like 5 or so questions to do each day. It's a lot less intimidating. And I think it also helps make the homework easier because you'll kind of know what methods to use on the homework, right? If you're doing the homework and you're doing it all at once, you might forget like, what's the distinction between these different types of problems? And so I'm really kind of creating the homework with that in mind. I'm creating the homework in mind of like, okay, these problems are meant to practice what's in this video. These problems are meant to practice what's in this video, and so on. So I really recommend doing it that way. You can always find it if you just click on the summary, this list. And some weeks I might be a little behind on like updating what homework goes for each day, but eventually it will be there. By the time I post the video, hopefully I'll have that stuff up. So here you can also find a summary of the assignments for each week. So I'll talk a little bit more about these in a minute, but if you want to kind of see all in one place, what's everything that's due that week, that's where you can see that. So before we get into, there's a couple of assignments that are specific for this first week, but I want to talk first just about general assignments. So each week you're going to have an online homework. So the first time that you click on the homework, it's going to ask you for your name. So I'll just say test student. It's automatically linked with your Canvas account already. So it's actually not, you don't have to like perfectly match your name when you type it in here, but it makes it easier for me to find you when I'm looking at homework results if you type in your full name here. So if you do that, then you'll see the homework. One thing I want to point out here, and I guess it's not showing up yet, but okay, yeah, maybe here. So if you click on, so here's the homework. So you can kind of navigate between questions by by clicking this button. You can click on this message instructor button. It basically just sends me an email with your homework question, or you can write me an email separately. Some of the questions you'll see, and I'm going to try to find one, some of them have a video to go along with them. I don't make those videos. Not every question has them. Basically, the way this online homework program works is that all these questions are written by different instructors in Washington. So there's some questions that I've written, but most of the questions that I'm using are just written by other instructors. Some instructors include a video along with it. But I would caution you against getting too dependent on these videos. I think it's a lot better if you kind of try the problem yourself first, and if you get stuck, then watch the video, because when you're taking a test, for example, you're not going to have a video telling you how to do each problem. So I think it's a lot better practice if you try to do things yourself first. So that's how the homework is going to look. You get 5 attempts on each problem. You don't lose any points for each attempt, but you only get 5. So I would definitely recommend against kind of spamming it with things. Like a lot of students, I think, maybe you get something wrong and you're like, oh, let me just try a negative sign. Let me just try multiplying by 2. Let me just try that. Don't do that. If you're getting a question wrong and you don't know why, please just send me an email. I'm really happy to help you out. And it's easier for me to help you out before you've used up all your attempts. So please do that. Another thing I want to mention is that on the online homework, there's these things called late passes. So late passes are going to each extend your deadline by 48 hours. The late passes are only for using on the homework. They have nothing to do with quizzes, nothing to do with anything else. Late passes are just for online homework. So each student is going to get 3 late passes to use throughout the quarter. The way that you can use a late pass is you just click on these 3 dots here and say redeem late pass. And it will extend your deadline by 48 hours after the homework is originally due. So the homework is set up to be due each week Sunday at 11:59 p.m. And so if you use the late pass, that will then extend your deadline to being Tuesday at 11:59 p.m. And you can stack them. Like if you have a really rough week and you want to use 2 late passes, you can use both of them, and that would extend it then to being Thursday at 11:59 p.m. So that's basically the online homework. Again, it's just meant to really practice what you learn in the videos. Other thing that is going to be every week is discussion board posts. So typically in most weeks, there's just going to be one discussion board. So it's going to look like this one. So this one is called Week 1 Questions. So basically it's just a place for you to ask and answer each other questions about the homework or the worksheets or the lectures. And last quarter, I was really happy. I felt like a lot of students really took advantage of this. I mean, granted, it was also for credit, so I think that's part of it, but I was really happy to see like the depth of discussion that was happening on these boards. So that's why I'm still doing it this quarter. So most weeks you're gonna have to ask or answer 2 questions. So basically I'm looking for you to ask questions or answer questions that are a little deeper than just, how do you do number 5? I don't want this to be a place where people just literally tell each other the answer of the homework. I want it to be a place where you're kind of like discussing things. So, try to ask questions that are specific. Try to, if you're asking about a homework question, be specific about what it is you're confused about, or, what you tried, like you could type up your work and be like, what am I doing wrong? Things like that, I think, are the best kind of posts you can make. I did get one kind of complaint last quarter because someone said they were kind of annoyed with the discussion board because they were like, everyone else waits until Sunday night to post on the discussion board, and so I have no one to answer. So, I think for people who want to kind of be on top of things, it really will help if everyone is kind of posting throughout the week rather than waiting until Sunday night. And that goes along with, not saving the homework until Sunday night. That being said, the discussion board posts are due Sunday night. So you do have the flexibility to do it throughout the week, but I think it would be most helpful to you and to your classmates if you kind of try to spread things out a little bit rather than doing it all like Sunday at 11 p.m. So like I said, most weeks it's going to be 2 questions that you have to answer. This week it's going to be 1 question or answer, and then I also made a post for you to introduce yourself, just because we're not getting to meet each other in class, and I want you to know who each other are. So basically it's just asking you to, I think, say your name and what major or program you're in, and then something you like to do in your free time. You can also access the discussions by clicking on this. So I have one extra discussion that is just pet photos. So I did this last quarter too, and a few people in the class posted their very cute animal photos, or I think one person posted like their plants, which had googly eyes on them, and it was like their plant babies. So, you know, feel free to use this, no pressure, but I think all of us could use like a little something to brighten our day every once in a while. So let me go back here. So those are two things that are going to be every week, is the online homework and the discussions. One more thing that's going to happen every week is a quiz. So the quizzes are going to be due on Friday. And the quizzes are going to basically cover material from kind of like the first half of the week. So they're basically to make sure that you're on track, you know, make sure that you're not saving everything until Sunday night. So typically we'll ask questions from the maybe first 2 or 3 videos from the week. So quizzes will be, I think you'll see, pretty straightforward. I'm not trying to like confuse you or make things overly complicated. I always will tell you what it is that you're gonna need to know how to do on the quiz. And then starting on 9 a.m. on Fridays, that's when you'll see this top part where I actually have the link to the quiz. And then when you're actually submitting the quiz, so a few things. So you need to submit the files as PDFs. And I put here a website that allows you to convert image files to PDFs. So basically for the quizzes, you'll click and download a PDF. If you have a printer, it's always really makes it kind of easier for me to grade if you actually print out the quiz and just write, you know, on the quiz. But I know not everyone has a printer, so you can also just write it on your own paper. Just make sure that you write really clearly and neatly, and then take a picture of your work. And you're going to need to convert it to a PDF. So you can use this website here. And then I can't require this, but I really appreciate if you have multiple pages, if you combine it into one PDF. It just makes it a lot easier for me when I'm grading, because every time there's a different file, I have to click and wait like a few minutes for it to load. So if it's a multi-page file, the whole thing loads at once basically, and it just makes things a lot faster for me to grade. So again, that's every Friday, available from 9 a.m. to 11:59 p.m. Pacific time. So that's all the stuff that is every week: quiz, discussion board, and homework. And then other thing is this week specifically. So specific to this week, there's 2 extra things. One thing is called the Syllabus Quiz. So this is basically just going to ask you questions about the syllabus. So I think just by watching this video, you'll probably know the answers to a lot of these things, but you also will probably want to actually read through the syllabus, and I'll talk about a few things from the syllabus as well. And you can take the quiz as many times as you want. It's basically, you know, a nice way. I include it as one of your quiz grades, so it's a nice way to kind of boost your quiz grade. And then the other thing that is specific to this week is this introduction survey. So this is just kind of asking you questions about yourself. So this is just for me, it's not public. Like there's also the discussion board where you introduce yourself, but this one is, I'm the only person that's going to see it. So basically just ask some background information about yourself. You know, ask if you have different names, ask what pronouns you use. Also ask about your placement. So I need to check like how you placed into this class, and I need proof of it. So you need to upload your transcript or your placement test results. If you took last quarter with me, then you don't need to do that, because I know, you know, I can check what your grade was and I know that you passed. And let's see. One thing that is new here is I said, tell me a little bit about your learning style. What are some things that help you learn? So that is a new question I added, just to kind of give me a little bit more of a sense of kind of what you all are looking for in this class. So that's that. So I just want to really make sure everyone knows this, that the introduction survey and the syllabus quiz, those are both due on Friday, and you need to complete both of those by Friday, or else I'm going to drop you from the class. And that might seem really strict, but basically we have a long wait list for this class, and typically with an in-person class, there's an attendance rule, which is if you miss class in, I think, like the first 2 weeks of class, the instructor is allowed to just drop you, no questions asked. And so that's kind of the same idea here. I'm trying to emulate that. I want to make sure that everyone who's in the class is like actually taking the class and not just sort of signed up for it. because we have a wait list and I want to make sure I get people in from the wait list if possible. So make sure you complete those two things both Friday by 11:59 p.m. or I'm going to drop you from the class. So please do that. You've been warned about that. So one other thing I just wanted to quickly point out is that there's an extra module if you scroll down to the bottom. So, this has week 1 right now, and then in the future there will be week 2, week 3, and those will each appear at the top. But if you scroll all the way to the bottom, there's a pre-calculus review. So this is going to be 2 optional homework assignments. So you don't need to do these, but they basically go over the topics that I expect you to be familiar with from Precalculus 1 and then Precalculus 2. So especially if it's been a little while since you've taken Precalculus, I'd recommend going through these. Like I said, they're completely, they're optional, they're not for credit. And I believe I set it up so you can try problems as many times as you want. So it's really just there for you to practice. And part of the reason I made them is, one is for you to get that practice if you need it. And the other reason is I just want you to kind of be aware of what it is that I expect you to know how to do already coming into this class. So, not to say that we won't be doing review along the way. Of course, there will be times in the class that we'll review stuff from trigonometry or exponential functions, things like that. But I do expect that you have basic familiarity with all the topics that are discussed in these homework assignments, because if you don't have familiarity with those topics, how are we going to be able to build on them and actually learn calculus? So make sure that you, if you feel at all shaky about those topics, just go and look at those assignments at least and see, do I feel like I know how to do this stuff? And if you look at those assignments and you feel like there's a lot that you don't know how to do, then, there's nothing wrong with that, but it does probably mean that you're not ready for this class. So, if you look at those and you feel like, uh-oh, I don't really know any of this stuff, that to me would be an indication that you should probably go back and take pre-calculus before you try to take this class. Okay, so I think that's mostly what I want to show you here. Maybe there's a couple other things I just want to show you from the home page. So, just a few links here that I want to point out. So the Math Learning Center has virtual tutoring. So there's a link to that here. And there's also a video on YouTube that they made that kind of walks you through how it works. So those are those 2 links. I also put, again, here this link for converting to PDF, as well as combining multiple PDFs to one file. I also linked a list of scanner apps. So basically this is something that on your phone allows you to take a picture that kind of makes it look like it's been scanned. It just makes it a little bit clearer. So that's not mandatory, but it does sometimes help with making your tests and quizzes kind of look a little nicer. I also included a link to Desmos. So we're going to be using Desmos in this class a good amount. It's an online graphing calculator. I think it's really useful. I think it's better basically than, the old school graphing calculators that you might have had in, high school or something like that. There's also an app, so you can feel free to download the Desmos app. You're not generally going to be allowed to use Desmos on on tests and quizzes. You can use it on homework, but yeah, just want to kind of mention that. Just in the same way that in an in-class class, I wouldn't allow you to use a graphing calculator on a test, same idea here. You're not allowed to use Desmos during a test. There's also a scientific calculator that Desmos makes. So in this class, you're going to want to have access to a scientific calculator. So a scientific calculator is a calculator that can do things like take a logarithm or do sine and cosine, inverse sine and cosine, things like that. So if you don't have like an actual physical scientific calculator, there's one right here that I linked on the homepage. There's also a lot of apps out there. So if you just look in the App Store for scientific calculator, you can find one and download it onto your phone. Okay, so next I just want to go to the syllabus and kind of point out a few things. So I'm not going to read like every detail of the syllabus because you can read this for yourself. So there's a table that tells you basically how many points or what percentage of your grade each thing is worth. So check that out. Textbook, we already talked about that. Online homework, we talked about that. Blah, blah, blah. We talked about all of that stuff. I talked about submitting quizzes and exams. So that is, again, you're going to use that button on Canvas. Make sure they're PDFs. If you ever have trouble submitting a quiz or exam, if it's just not uploading or having internet troubles, please email me your file like right away so I can kind of have a timestamp and know that, okay, you were trying to submit it, but it wouldn't submit. And then typically what I'll do is the next day I'll reopen the assignment so you can then upload that file there. I don't want you to make a habit of that, but if you are having trouble, just send me an email so I know that you actually completed the assignment, and then I'll find a way for you to get it onto Canvas, just because it's so much easier for me to grade things when they're actually posted on Canvas rather than in my email. Okay, so a few other things I want to talk about, basically just sort of what I think about teaching math, and I call it my teaching philosophy. So one thing that I think is really important is that I tend to emphasize understanding rather than memorizing. So of course, in math classes, there's always going to be some things to memorize. I'm not going to say that there aren't, but I don't like for that to be the emphasis. So I will always try to kind of tell you where a formula comes from, sort of like build up, where an idea is coming from, things like that in my lectures. And I also try to design my homework questions and quiz and exam questions so that I am kind of testing that understanding rather than just testing, did you memorize a procedure? So this next one I think is really kind of the most important thing that I really want to emphasize, is that math isn't a spectator sport. So basically what I mean by that is that you can't learn math just by watching someone else do math, right? Like, you could watch all of the videos for this class, but if you never pick up a pencil and paper and try the problems yourself, you're not really learning it. It's the same way that you can't, like, if you wanted to learn how to play basketball really well, you wouldn't just watch people play basketball and expect yourself to suddenly be good at it, right? So it's really, really important that you kind of take responsibility for the fact that you need to kind of actually try these problems yourself. And that's really a part of the learning process. So that's the reason that I make worksheets for every day, and that I really encourage you to actually do those. And then also to do the homework, broken up throughout the week as a means to practice what you're learning in the videos. The other thing that I want to say, and I don't mean this to be discouraging, is that math isn't easy. And especially, calculus has a reputation, right, of being hard. And in a lot of ways it is. And I don't want you to think of that as something that I'm trying to scare you. It's more that you need to recognize that the stuff you're doing is challenging. And basically there's nothing wrong with you if you're struggling, is what I really want to make sure people realize. There's nothing wrong with having difficulty. And I think a lot of people assume that with math, everyone's either, instantly good at it, or they're just never going to understand it. And I think that is just such a bad attitude to have. So I think the best attitude you can have for this class is to kind of walk into it expecting that there are going to be some challenges, but realizing that if you put in the hard work, you can get past those challenges. And that, that's really part of the deal. That's how you learn. So, expect to put in hard work. I try to make my classes no kind of harder than they need to be, but there's going to be hard work. It's going to be hard. And you need to kind of embrace that in order to, I think, be successful and also kind of like have a positive experience with the class. If you can embrace the challenge, then I think you'll have a lot more of a positive experience than if you really resist it. Last thing, and this doesn't unfortunately get to shine as much in an online class, but I think that collaboration is really important in all learning and in math as well. So I think the discussion boards are a really good way for you to kind of practice explaining things to each other and seek help from each other. And also, if you want to make friends in the class and email each other, text each other outside of class for help, that's great. I think that anything you can do to kind of be in it together is really helpful to your success. Okay, so this next thing is really important, specifically for online classes. So academic honesty. So the internet is great, right? There's lots of stuff on the internet. There's Khan Academy. There's a gazillion YouTube videos about everything. You can Google a homework question and find someone explaining it to you. And in a lot of ways, that stuff is great. It really makes it possible for you to get help on stuff and in a really easy and accessible way. However, it's just really important that you, when you're using the internet, are using it in a way that is actually helping you learn and not hurting you from learning. And what I mean by that is that if the way that you do the homework is you read the homework question and you instantly just say, I don't know how to do this, I'm going to Google it. That might get you the answer, but you're not really learning, right? You're not learning how to do it yourself. So, and it kind of goes back to what I was just talking about with embracing the challenge. The best way to learn is to encounter a problem you don't know how to do, spend time working on it and figure it out. That's, I think, like the best case scenario for learning something. And I'm not saying that you can't seek help when you need it. Of course, do that. But just kind of ask yourself when you're getting help, is this helping me learn or is it kind of preventing me from learning? So specifically, that's kind of on homework, right? On homework, you're welcome to use the internet as much as you want, but just kind of check yourself with what you're learning. On exams and quizzes, you're not allowed to use the internet. Or communicate with each other. So I know that there are other instructors out there who kind of go to great lengths to prevent cheating. There's like honor lock, or maybe they make everyone go on Zoom during the test. I don't want to do that. I would like to kind of trust everyone. I know some of you are going to cheat. I know people are going to cheat. And I just have kind of decided that I would rather not focus my energy on, preventing people from cheating. That's not really the point of the class. I want to focus my energy on the people who are here to learn. There are always going to be people who aren't here to learn. There are people who want to just kind of get by as easy as possible. And, I don't really feel like there's much I can do to prevent that. So I'm going to focus my energy on the people who are here to learn. And, with that in mind, it's going to be honor system. So it's really honor system that you are not using the internet, are not talking to each other during tests. That being said, I'm also, I'm going to be grading things with, looking for the possibility of cheating. So specifically, I know all about Chegg. I have an account, so I can actually go in and search homework and I guess more like test and quiz questions. And there's a way for me to actually contact them and find out who posted stuff. So I have done this in the past. I have found people who posted the tests on Chegg, and I did give them a 0. So that's out there. I just want you to know that that I'm aware of the existence of these websites, and I will be checking them both to see kind of whether people are copying from them, and then also to figure out who posted this, and that person is going to get a 0. So really, really not allowed to use that stuff during a test. Again, it's mostly honor system, but hopefully most of you want to do the right thing. Okay, so getting help. I want to make it really clear that I am here to help you. Right? Like my job is literally to help you learn. Like that's my job. And I really don't want you to be afraid of asking me for help. So please, please, please come to my office hours. I know office hours can be intimidating, but like they're literally there to help you. Like that's my job. You can also email me questions. And I noticed last quarter that there was a lot of good posts on the discussion board, but then I kind of started to feel like there were some questions that never got answered, and then no one ever emailed me about them either. So definitely post on the discussion board, but if you don't get an answer, don't be afraid to email me. I will generally be checking my email between approximately 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. I'll check it other times, but don't expect that you're gonna get like an instant reply if you email me at like 11:30 p.m. the night the homework is due. So, I'll get back to you eventually, but just if you want a quick response, you should email me during sort of normal business hours. Other things for getting help, there's the virtual tutoring that I mentioned. There's the discussion board. There's a lot of places to get help. So, if you're having trouble, just don't be afraid to reach out, basically. So a couple more things I just want to mention. Main one I want to mention is that if you have a disability, so if you need accommodations, you have to go through the Disability Services Center. So that's linked on the syllabus, so contact them. So if you get like extra time, things like that, you have to go through them. I will say that because of the way that, so I'm doing my tests and quizzes as, you have like, how long? 15 hours to complete them, which isn't really meant to be the length of the test. So for the most part, people who get extra time haven't really needed to use it on this stuff. But if you are going to request any kind of accommodation, just know that you have to go through the Disability Services Center to kind of make it official. Yeah, and that's basically all. You can read the rest of this. This is important stuff, but I don't think it's necessarily stuff that I have to read out loud to you. So I think that's mostly what I wanted to tell you. So like I said, read through the syllabus yourself, do the syllabus quiz, do the introduction survey. Make sure you do those 2 things by Friday. And then just kind of check back on Canvas every day and you'll see videos being posted. You can you watch the video, do the worksheet, and think of that as kind of replacing the classroom experience. The combination of the video and the worksheet together will be like a class day. And just to kind of reiterate again, just so that you kind of have your right expectations, like I said earlier, summer quarter is intense. So there is going to be a little bit more material covered per week than there was last quarter. And the homework will also probably be a little longer just because of summer quarter being shorter. We just have to kind of cram more into a shorter period. So yeah, that's it. Let me know if you have any questions. I'd be happy to answer them, and I will see you all in the next video.